Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with the love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Y'all, it has been a week since our last Zoo News episode. Crazy how that happens. Seems like every week there's a new Zoo News episode. And so, yeah, it's been a good week. I spent Thursday night at an event called Savor Del Mar, which is a huge fundraising night for Aquarium of Niagara, and it's held at the aquarium. And it's fun. My official volunteer duties for Savor, really for any of the big, event type things that we have, I always have the same duties, which is I start off schmoozing people as they come in. And then once most of the people are in, I move to some financial place, usually the silent auction or raffle or whatever's going on there. And I schmooze people there, and I talk to them, and I talk up, me and the aquarium, and I converse, and I help them if they have any problems figuring out how to give us money, whether it's using an app or whatever. But basically, my job when I do this is just two people. And it's a lot of fun. It is. There are a lot of, people that I get to talk to and cool conversations and stuff. It's also a very unique experience for me because I don't normally put myself into situations where I'm with a ton of people. I've talked about this on here before. I'm very comfortable in small groups, but this is a large group, and I am still just like, hi, it's me, I'm John. And, but it's fine and it's fun and it's honestly helpful for the aquarium. And that's really important to me. And I love that, I can volunteer at these events and kind of be that person, one of those people. There are a lot of us that are being very charming and nice and all of the things. But yeah, so it's always a fun evening. So I had a lot of fun at Savor Del Mar at Aquarium of Niagara. And then the other big thing that I need to talk to you all about is I need to remind you all about the Ecuador trip that's coming up later this year. So we are talking about doing some sea turtle conservation work in Ecuador. I like to say we're gonna put the safari in Rossifari and go help some sea turtles. And this is through an organization called World Packers, which I did vet and I feel very good about, and I think it's going to be lovely. But the way that things work with World Packers is to move forward, to see that we have enough interest to get at least a couple people to come along so the trip doesn't get canceled. The first thing that I have to do is get 50 people minimum into a WhatsApp group. And so I've been posting the link to that, and I need warm bodies in it. So if this is something that might be even slightly interesting to you, it is helpful to me if you go and join that WhatsApp group and come help me help turtles, and we're going to do stuff, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to help protect nesting beaches, monitor nests, might even get to see some hatchlings. I don't know. Planting trees, all kinds of stuff. And also fun stuff. Chocolate workshop and bird watching. And it's going to be a really good time, y'all. So, and you'll obviously be, if you're willing to, I'll be podcasting about it. So if you've ever wanted to be on Rossifari, this is your opportunity to do so. Or heck, if you've been on Rossifari, this is your opportunity to do so again. So yeah, check that out and join the WhatsApp group, please. It would be very helpful to me. So go join now. I'll wait. Do, 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 do. No, okay. But anyway, I guess that was Jeopardy music. It would have to be more of like do, 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 do. This Girl from Ipanema. That was the elevator music in Blues Brothers, in case you were wondering. I'm a music nerd. Anyway, okay. I promise that if you come to Ecuador with me, I won't sing off-key elevator music versions of old songs. So there's an extra cool thing for you. All right, so let's talk about this week's episode of Zoo News. We got a couple of stories that we're going to be talking about, so this is going to be one of those deeper dives episodes. And we're going to start off with the latest update about Sloth World. And joining me again will be Sam Trull, who you may remember was on before to talk about this, and it's from the Sloth Institute. And so, yeah, very excited to have her on and talk to her about that. And then we're going to talk about the Brookfield Zoo strike and labor deal that has been struck. And I've talked to a lot of people there, and it's an interesting story. So I think we're going to go through it. Now, there's one other story that I was planning on diving into here. And I'm going to address it quickly now and then explain to you why it's not going to be one of the deep dives this week, because I know y'all are expecting to hear about this. It's the elephant in the elephant habitat in the room, which is the bomb threats that have been happening at multiple AZA facilities over the last couple of weeks. There was really an uptick in the last week. I think 13 different facilities, one of which managed to stay under the radar with it, which I actually think is kind of cool. And so I was going to do a whole big thing about this. And I even reached out to my friends at the AZA to see if they wanted to have someone on to talk about it. And the vibe that I got in the response was that they're very willing to do that when they are a little more prepared to do that, but also they're worried about giving this more steam and kind of almost promoting that it's been happening, which I think is a very valid concern. So the way I've decided to handle this is I'm not going to say anything more about it in Zoo News this week. And then I'm going to see what happens. And if there's something worth discussing, I'll either talk about it next week, or I'll touch base with the AZA again and see if they want to do something, or maybe we wait until things have settled down a little bit more. But it's a very important conversation to have. But also, I strongly understand the notion of let's not give it any more credo than it already has. So yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you do now because I explained it briefly, but we're gonna hope it stops for sure, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. But until then, I think it's time to get to it. Stereotypical animal podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news.
My name is Sam Trull, and I am the co-founder and executive director of the Sloth Institute in Costa Rica.
Yes, and welcome back.
Thank you.
And we are here to obviously talk more about Sloth World. And I want to start, so my audience knows what's been going on roughly, but you did the thing. Like, congratulations. This is really exciting, and I'd love to hear your take on everything that's happened since we last talked.
Yeah, it's been a crazy whirlwind. Since our organization, along with our friends at the Sloth Conservation, sent out the press release in January, at first we got a little bit of attention, but there wasn't like a lot of interest from the press originally. However, finally, Katie from Inside Climate News took an interest, and she interviewed both of us, and then she really just did some digging and found things that we honestly suspected, but didn't, know for a fact or anything. And of course, then released her bombshell article in, I think, the beginning of April or mid-April. Honestly, it feels like it's either been a really short amount of time or a really long amount of time, but I think it's only been like a week and a half since the article came out, maybe 2 weeks. And yeah, I think that because she, found a lot, evidence of so many deaths that really got people's attention and spurred the conversation. And then, seemed to lead to some immediate change, which is pretty crazy. And like you said, incredible.
Yeah, and really rare. We have to say that.
Yeah.
It
really
often takes
rare.
a while. But I mean, I know a lot of people in my audience reached out and said that, as I was featuring this stuff, it was the first time that they ever felt compelled to sign a petition or to just reshare the videos that I made or the stuff that you guys put out or whatever. And I think that's amazing. And I think it's incredible that all of us were able to contribute directly to this place getting shut down, saving countless sloth lives that haven't been imported yet. And then also, helping out the 13 that were still there. And unfortunately, 2 of those have since passed, but that's still 11 sloths that were going to die that haven't yet, and that's incredible.
It is incredible. And it gives me renewed faith in humanity, if that makes sense.
It makes all the sense in the world.
I feel like for so many years, we've been kind of speaking into an echo chamber, and because it's not like this is the first time sloths have been imported and then died. It just normally happens one by one. So it doesn't, get as much attention because it's not as alarming, because anything could happen to one sloth. It doesn't even necessarily have to be negligence. But when something happens to so many, it's very suspicious for obvious reasons. And the fact that finally has gotten people's attention. I mean, it's sad that it took that many to get people up in arms, but I'm so glad that actually did, because it also could not have. And then that would have been even more sad. So I'm glad that people agree that, hey, wait a minute, it's probably not so cool to take sloths out of the wild, bring them to Florida, put them in a cold warehouse, and have a bunch of them die. Maybe we should not be doing that.
Weird. When you put it like that, it sounds like a bad idea,
Yeah, not really the best thing to do.
Yeah. So, what's next? Because I know that a lot of us are celebrating right now, but I also know that this is far from over.
Absolutely. So, we honestly haven't even taken that much time to celebrate, because we have we've just been working ever since people started paying attention to it, because we want to harness this attention to continue to make change for the better. So right now we're continuing to work really closely with our partners at the Sloth Conservation Foundation to fight for change. So myself and the executive director and founder of the Sloth Conservation Foundation, Dr. Rebecca Cliff, we are actually headed to Orlando tomorrow, and we'll be spending the rest of the week there. And we have meetings with different legislators, different people of the press. We have meetings with the CEO of the zoo, and really just trying to figure out all the different ways that we can harness our expertise to help people in Florida make better decisions for the wildlife that ends up in Florida. Because at the end of the day, it's up to the people of Florida to decide what happens there. But they want guidance, and they want to hear from the experts, and because they don't want anything like this to ever happen again. And so I know that Becky and I both feel very strongly about doing everything we can to help prevent something like this from happening again. And so that's why we're headed to Orlando to see what we can do.
That's really awesome. I wish y'all a great trip, and I hope that there are lots of receptive ears. I feel like so often change needs a catalyst. And while these 50 some sloths that died through this process, maybe more, I know we're still, the math ain't mathin' on all the things. Yeah, I know. But if their legacy could be the stopping of importing of wild sloths, I mean, I'm not saying it's worth it, but that'd be a nice way to end this story.
It honestly, I mean, that's what we're aiming for sure. And I really hope that is what we get, because then maybe their deaths wouldn't be in vain. Because they're not the first sloths to die through this kind of process, and they won't be the last unless we do something to change it. And so I think the best way that we can honor them is by fighting in their name. Absolutely.
And the people that have been, fired up about this and have been participating when they've never participated before. And if you're listening to this, I know there are a lot of you that are there. It's not the time to give up. It's the time to keep focusing on this, to hold on to that anger, that frustration, whatever it is, don't let it consume you, but use it to, as the chance comes up to talk about this legislation, as the chance comes up to help these organizations, moving forward, take the time to do it. And I have already told you, Sam, I will be there every step of the way. You just tell me, and I will do whatever I can do to help, spread the word and get stuff out there.
We appreciate it.
Of course.
And I think this situation is a really good reminder, honestly, for all of us, that everyone's voice matters, because it's so easy for any situation that feels really big and sad and horrible and unjust to not speak up, especially if you're afraid. It's really easy to not speak up if you're afraid. But when we all speak together, it's way less scary. I mean, honestly, for, being one of the loudest voices, having our friends at the Sloth Conservation Foundation speaking just as loudly right alongside with us is really powerful and really helpful. And I think also that really helped to elevate this issue, because both of our audiences were seeing us both say the same exact thing. And I really think that helps to be like, whoa, wait a minute. They're both saying the same thing. We need to pay attention to this. But every single person that speaks up, whether signing a petition or writing to their legislators, it really does make a difference. And I feel like we hear that. I've certainly heard that happening in other, situations from society where something goes wrong and then people get upset and then a change is made. But it really is true. And without everyone speaking up, and you never know that by you speaking up, it might encourage the person next to you and then the person next to them. And it really is a snowball effect. And that's how change is made. It's the only way it's made, but it starts somewhere. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It has been really rewarding to see all of this happening, even though at the same time it's been terrible. It's like every time I read an article about Sloth World, I'm either ripping my hair out or cheering, and yeah. I can only imagine for you. I will say one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that the two of your organizations worked together on this. I have shared so many stories over the year from just various conservationists and stuff about how competition in conservation causes problems and has destroyed conservation efforts. And I know it all comes from, good hearts and different opinions or whatever. But seeing two, organizations that could be considered rivals. Oh, we're both trying to save sloths in different ways. And give me your money. No, give me your money. Whatever. Yeah. I get it. It's a thing. Working together has been really beautiful. And again, what great results, it's really cool to honestly see. It's been really beautiful for us too. We're like, whoa, we're so similar, and whoa, look how much more we can do when we do it together versus apart. And yeah, like you said, I totally understand. I mean, for sure, I understand the drama within the conservation world. It's not like I've never experienced that with anybody else. And I also understand there's limited funds, and if someone loves sloths, they're not going to probably donate to both. They're going to just donate to one. And so inherently, it's an easy place to breed issue. But I think one of the things that's unique about our collaboration is we both choose to rise above that, and we both choose to trust each other, and we both choose to see the good in working together, not focus on the bad. And I know that for myself, Becky has been the most supportive person in this field that I've ever had anyone be for the work that we do, because the work that we do on our own without bringing anybody else into it is so hard. There's so many aspects and so many times where I've wanted to quit, many times. And I'll literally text her and be like, oh, I'm having one of those days. And she'll just be like, no, Sam, keep going. And then vice versa. If she's having a bad day, she'll text me and I'll be like, no, you're amazing. Keep going. And that has been so important for me personally, literally to be able to keep going on the hard days, to know that she's rooting for me. And I hope she knows I'm also rooting for her. It really is beautiful. I don't really know how else to say it. It really is great. And this is our first real public campaign together, but it's certainly not the last one or the end of our collaboration.
Yeah, and that's awesome to see. Now, we've talked about legislation as far as the idea of, you're going down and you're going to try to get the import of sloths banned and all of that, and good, yay. I am curious, though, about the people involved with Sloth World. There have been a lot of calls for prosecution, and I admit I don't know the legalities down there. But I'm curious, is that something y'all are pursuing? Is that something you're hoping to see? Is that something that we as a conservation community should be concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely something we hope to see because, in our opinion, we feel as though those animals were failed and we feel as though they were failed in a criminal way. But at the same time, like you said, the criminal justice system is not anything I know anything about. And so I don't know anything about how the case is going or what they're going to do. But I do know that we will be available for any help that we can provide in pursuing that because we want justice for the sloths. We want justice in all the ways. And a lot of times I think when something horrible happens, if there are no repercussions or consequences, it's much more likely to keep happening. So I think that consequences are important. And I think it's a part of the change that we want to make.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to hopefully we'll be able to see stuff. I know PETA has filed for charges. Again, I don't really know how all of that works, but I know that I have read that PETA has filed for charges. So that's something, I guess. I don't.
Yeah.
The legal system's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Though, one of the representatives we were meeting with, Ana Escamani, she called for a criminal investigation. And the Attorney General's office has said that they are pursuing or they're investigating.
Excellent.
That's the letter that they sent out, I don't know, a few days ago, I think it was. Again, it's been a whirlwind of time, so I'm not sure exactly when it was. But I'm under the impression that things are being investigated. No idea where that's going to land. Obviously, that's not my wheelbox. But again, we'll be available for any kind of consultation if that's helpful.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I know that Peter Bondre was the person who did a lot of the importing, was the named importer. And he had been known as he was a sea turtle conservationist that had a major impact. He started the Sea Turtle Preservation Society and was no longer associated with them. And they're a great organization. In no way anyone listening, not throwing them under the bus. But that's the thing. They are a great organization that he started, and he was known as this compassionate conservationist. And then he was the vice president of Sloth World. And now all of the public mentions of him have been pulled off of, different sites and everything. And I don't think the story's over from that side either.
Oh, yeah, no, that's wild. Well, I mean, and even before Sloth World, he's been importing wild animals for the pet trade for decades because he was the owner of Incredible Pets.
Interesting.
That's what they did. They sold all kinds of species of wild animals as pets. But yeah, I mean, people aren't black and white, right? So I'm glad that the Sea Turtle Conservancy or Preservation Trust, I'm not sure what it's called exactly, exists and that it's doing some good. And so I'm glad he did that, but that doesn't negate, harm in other areas that I feel as though he's done. And also, I mean, everyone has a different perspective on how they do things, but I think that, my perspective is that you shouldn't be taking animals out of the wild for the pet trade and for, trying to open commercial businesses like Sloth World. I can't find any way to justify that personally. But for sure, when they're not even surviving, which I think almost most sloths that are put in those situations aren't. Again, I think Sloth World's just getting attention because there's so many that died at the same time. But so many pet sloths are not surviving, and as I think we talked about last time, there's also plenty of captive facilities like AZA good zoos that are losing sloths at earlier ages because of health issues, because they're just really tricky to keep in captivity, even in really good facilities that have giant vet staffs and, all that resources and access to knowledge that they need. They still struggle. So there's just really no place in the private pet trade for sloths, in my opinion.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Awesome. Well, I know you have to go finish packing. So thank you very much for taking the time. Thank you for everything you've been doing. And, honestly, I think it was Mr. Rogers said, when there's tragedy, look for the heroes. And you are one of those, and Becky is one of those. And Mr. Rogers would give you a big hug right now.
Don't make me cry.
And I just know that everyone, who's been following along really appreciates all you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the Brookfield labor situation, as I mentioned. But before we do, I just need to go back to the Sam interview for a second. Couple of things. First of all, Mr. Rogers, I misquoted him there. He said to always look for the helpers. There are always people helping. And I did just want to say that is the correct quote. However, to me, when there is a problem and people are stepping up, the helpers are the heroes. So I stand by what I said. And Sam and Becky and the people involved with all of this are true heroes. And I am so proud to be just a tiny little infinitesimal speck of what is happening. It is such a pleasure and a joy and an honor. And I hope that they know how much so many of us appreciate what they are doing. Okay, so I needed to say that. I also needed to say that Sam is one of the people who, like, you should see me when I finish talking to this person. I'm energized. I want to, I don't even know, man. It's like a really great coach that pumps you up or something. Like, I just want to go save the world whenever I talk to Sam. After we stopped recording, I remember I was just like, you're really good at this. And I know that you know that, but holy crap, you're really good at this. I don't know. It's just an amazing human. So I need to take a moment to say that. But let's move on to the other big topic of today's episode, which is the now resolved kind of labor situation at the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago. I have a couple caveats before we dive into this story. First of all, I've spoken to multiple people that were directly involved with the negotiations, the strike, and the situation after that, the vote to end the strike. So everything I'm saying is coming from firsthand conversations with people involved who I'm not going to name, obviously. And second of all, I have a degree in labor studies that was actually focused on unions. So this is a topic that I do know and understand fairly well, although that was many years ago that I earned that. But so basically, if you've been following this story at all, then you know that there was a strike at Brookfield, and the strike has ended, and it was a keeper strike. And both sides, management and the union, are claiming success, victory, whatever you want to call it, and saying that, they got a good deal. And anytime you see two sides saying, that they got a deal that they both love after a strike, no. There's the old saying that a great compromise leaves everyone unhappy. And but PR is PR, and I get it. So in this case, the zookeepers at Brookfield are members of the Teamsters Union. And the Teamsters Union is one of the strongest in the United States. They are known for some hardcore bullying tactics, if you want to call it that, but often ones that are very successful. Jimmy Hoffa was obviously involved in their early history, and his body is still missing. If you don't know that whole story, it's quite interesting. So Teamsters kind of started off as a truckers union and then evolved into taking on all kinds of different bargaining units. And so, what started to happen when they were negotiating was that basically management proposed small raises over the 4 years of the next proposed contract, and also wanted staff to start to pay into their own health care. And I know that might kind of catch you off guard a little bit, but the keeper staff at Brookfield have their healthcare paid for by the zoo. I've heard from some of the people I talked to believe that the union pays parts of it and the zoo pays part of it, but now people were being asked for the first time ever to actually expect to pay for some of their own healthcare, along with, like I said, relatively small raises, and then there was also an issue with staffing and how many staff members would be hired or wouldn't be hired. And the original offer basically was, yeah, we might bring in like a temporary staffer or two, but we're not creating any new positions. And so the union and the management went back and forth until management made what is known as their best final offer. And that's a very important quote, because what that means is management at that point says, we are done negotiating. Y'all need to vote on this. And basically, when you use that phrase, it truly is. It's the end. It means you're either going to take this offer or the union's going to need to vote to authorize a strike. And so, yeah, it was not well received. They overwhelmingly voted against it. Interestingly, even the last best final offer did not actually have a plan for replacing the healthcare the staff gets. Instead, the zoo said they would look for other options to find something similar, and they couldn't really say how much rates would go up from zero for staff members. So you're asking a lot of people with families or even just with their own tight budgets or whatever to accept small raises, no new staff, and a big old question mark on what your healthcare is going to look like and how much it's going to cost. Arguably, it could outpace the wage increases for people. So you could actually end up getting paid less, take home in a check, because you just don't know. And I'm not in any way saying that the zoo was pushing for something like that. I'm merely saying that when a best final offer comes in without all of those details, it's pretty darn hard to know what you're getting and to vote for it. So they overwhelmingly voted against it and voted to authorize the strike. Different people I talked to said anywhere from like 75 to 80% of the union voted to authorize a strike. So as I mentioned, there were three major issues. There's healthcare, there's pay, and there's staffing. The team basically wanted, when I say the team, I mean the zookeeper team, the union, wanted the collective bargaining agreement to agree to hire multiple new full-time staff members, as well as some temp staff for coverage and such. And in looking at all of this, management kept saying, we'll have to raise ticket prices to pay for any of this, and it's a problem. But management all got huge raises within the last year. The president makes over $700,000 annually plus bonuses, and the CFO and senior vice president both make between $300,000 and $400,000 each. So there's money. It's just not going. It's not trickling down, weirdly enough. I guess that still doesn't work. But yeah, so it got to a weird place with the keepers, though, because you may be wondering, well, how do keepers go on strike? They have to take care of animals. They have to, animals, will the animals just die? Would keepers just not feed their animals? And the answer is no, of course not. Whenever anyone in a caregiving position like zookeeper or doctor or nurse or anything like that, actually, I doubt there's a doctor's union, but you get the point. Maybe there's, I don't know. But I know there are nurses unions. And whenever they go on strike, they basically will show up for work and do the minimum necessary to, keep things functioning. So you're giving medication, you're feeding the animals if you're a keeper, or feeding your patients if you work at a hospital. And, like those types of things happen, but then nothing else. No keeper talks, nothing like that. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times what happens is you go in and you start your shift doing that stuff. Then you go out to the picket lines and you picket for a while. And then when it's time to do that stuff kind of in reverse at the end of the day, you go back in and do that stuff. And so the strike was authorized, and some people started to form picket lines, but keeper staff at first were told to not join the lines, and they were told this by the Teamsters. And so the Teamsters just kept not coming up with a plan for the keepers to actually get out and to picket. And then the Teamsters also started to push back against the idea that the public was going to be on the side of the keepers. One big thing you want with a strike is you want, public awareness and people to support labor. And the Teamsters were telling their own union members that they didn't have a lot of support. And I have to say, I don't know where they got that from. Obviously, I'm guessing they have much better polling than me looking at a bunch of articles about the strike online. But the responses that I saw on social media were overwhelmingly positive towards the keepers. I only saw a few that were like, they need to get back to work. They just play with animals all day and stuff like that. Most of it was genuinely like, I will not be back to your zoo until you are paying your staff properly. And like, that's the kind of support you want. So there was a lot of confusion about all of this. And then as the keepers were working, they were in the zoo with, people that were in management, and there was a lot of hostility and from both sides, from what I'm hearing. By the way, I'm not saying, management was all being evil. I'm not saying that at all. There were just a lot of, angry people on both sides and a lot of confusion and all kinds of stuff. And so finally, the keepers were able to, because they told the Teamsters they had multiple plans to pick it properly. And the Teamsters finally agreed to that, but then told them that a new offer was coming in from management and that it was an offer that the union thought they should accept. So the word about this went out to union members at around 6 p.m. the night before the vote, but a written copy was never sent. And roughly 12 hours later, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the union verbally explained the offer to the union members and then voted on ending the strike based on that. And they didn't even do they didn't eyeball vote. It wasn't like they made everybody vote directly on it. They raised hands or did a voice vote or whatever. And they're like, okay, cool. The ayes have it. We're ending the strike. Yay. And in talking to people, a whole lot of people thought that it probably did pass, but like barely. And some other people felt that it did not. And so interestingly, though, what happened there and what is fascinating about this to me is that it's now being touted as, there's a new labor agreement and blah, blah, blah. And that is not what that vote was. And we got to talk about that more. Okay. So the vote that happened was to end the strike and consider the offer. The offer has not been ratified yet. The CBA has not been ratified by the union. The union still needs to vote for that. And so on the main issues that we were talking about, the final offer was raises over the next 4 years of 6%, 6%, 4%, and 4%. And a lot of people I talked to did really like that is front loaded with all of the financial chicanery that is happening right now. And of course, the biggest victory is that union members will get to keep their free healthcare, which is a huge victory. And then there was the staffing issue, and that one gets complicated. So both sides are saying that in the agreement, they've agreed to hire additional staff. But as far as anyone I talked to could tell, they only agreed to add positions that were still unfilled from the last CBA, meaning they're not new positions. They're just going to hire these people that they're already supposed to have hired. But again, all of this gets extra weird because the union members haven't been able to actually see the written offer that they'll eventually be voting on. And in talking to people, a lot of people on staff felt they had to vote to end the strike just because they were so scared to lose their free healthcare. And in that final meeting, I heard from multiple people that the union leadership was very hostile when people were even just asking questions about the offer or asking for a written copy before, agreeing to end their strike because of this. So for now, both sides are calling this a win, but a lot of staff at the zoo feels defeated, honestly. Keepers never really got the chance to pick it. Their plan was never put in place by their union, and they were forcefully encouraged to vote to end the strike without fully knowing what the latest potential CBA looks like. And when I say forcefully encouraged, again, I'm not talking about from management. I'm talking about from their own union leadership. So like a lot of people there are super glad that they will get to keep their health care, but feel really bad about the staffing concessions, and feelings on the raises are complicated. I talked to some people who didn't care about the money at all, think they're fairly well paid. Some people who think it's perfect, and some people who think it's, a disaster and they deserve a ton more money. I feel like that's always the case. I have heard people talking about possibly trying to go to a different union, to leave the Teamsters. I don't know if you remember this. We talked about this quite a while ago on the podcast, but many years ago. There was a group of vet techs that I heard about at a hospital that tried to unionize, and they did successfully, though barely. And they joined the Communication Workers Union, and the union didn't know what to do with vet techs. They kept making these proposals to their new union members being like, we need to, make your doctors make less money and you guys make more. And they're like, no. Our doctors are great and they deserve their money. Management should make less money. And they're like, we should, threaten them this way. And they were like, no, we don't want to do that. And after a year, the staff that had voted to unionize overwhelmingly voted to leave the union without a CBA, without any contract negotiations really happening in depth, because the union was fighting the vet techs. And when you're in a union, you need the union to really understand the work you're doing. And in this case, it sounds like the Teamsters maybe didn't. At least that's the impression I'm getting from the people I spoke to. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know all the details, but in talking to people, that does seem to be maybe what happened. I don't know. I am strongly pro-union, by the way, just to be super clear on that. But this sounds like it went okay, poorly, fine, I guess. It goes back to what I said at the top of this story, which is that, compromise often leaves everyone feeling annoyed and angry and dissatisfied. So is this a compromise that just makes them all feel that way, but it's actually a fair compromise? I don't know. But I don't think that either side should be claiming it as the win that both of them are claiming it as. And again, I just need to point out that the CBA is not ratified. And what that means at the end of the day is that the keepers could vote to not ratify it, and then go back to the bargaining table, and then possibly even, you guessed it, strike again. So while everyone, who's putting out these press releases and want to look great are saying the strike is over and everything is wonderful and we have labor peace and we have a deal, they don't yet. And just keep that in mind, and don't be surprised if all of a sudden things go back to how they have been, how they were at the start of this week. But I really hope not. I really hope everything looks good on paper and that the Brookfield staff truly get what they deserve. They're incredible keepers. It's an incredible facility, and I hope that this labor peace truly does come around and lasts for them.
Animal holidays. Animal holidays.
All right. It is May, which is National Duckling Month, National Lake Cleanup Month, and No Mow May. And I've been doing a good job of that, and my yard is looking a little crazy right now in a way that I really love. Then for our individual days, nothing today on the 8th. The 9th is World Binturong Day, International Chameleon Day, and World Migratory Bird Day, but most importantly, World Binturong Day. Very excited about that. The 10th is National Shrimp Day. And then the 13th is Frog Jumping Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. But before we go from that, I need to tell you that on World Binturong Day, you guys need to tune in to Animals Anonymous. So you already know we have our Safe Tree Kangaroo fundraiser running this whole month, featuring one of my photos. But on that day, Alexis is going to be doing a fundraiser for AB Conservation, which is Arcticus Binturong Conservation, the only conservation organization in the world dedicated entirely to the binturong. And the binturong merch that she will be selling that day is from one of my photos of Tasik at the Virginia Zoo. So very excited to currently have 2 of my photographs featured as art on one of my favorite companies. So yeah, make sure that you grab your World Binturong Day swag from Animals Anonymous while you can. And hey, grab yourself some tree kangaroo stuff while you're there. All right. So there you have it, folks. Had a lot of fun with this one. Love my deep dive episodes. I do want to take a moment to remind you all that we do have a Patreon. You can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. Thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons. Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And I would also like to say thank you to everyone who sent me stories over the last couple of weeks, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbook, Dr. Natalie Taco, Taran Hanton, Dr. Laura Shank, Ren Howell, mate. Yeah, anyway, Jacob Zinn, Holly Page, Nikki Morley, Ethan Ferguson, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Ken Tryon, Marianne Rossi, Ann Yoshioka, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
April Taylor, Daniel Cohen, Kelly Plowie, Rowena White, Zach Poe, Crystal Chapman, Jamie Chavez, Kristen Khalil, Maddie Pats, Jennifer Zune, Becca Robinson, Strix, I forget Strix, but then there's a Strix, it's no tricks, there's a Strix, Michael Sebastian, Melissa Kenny, Rick Schwartz, Sierra Bowen, Sam Evans, and Nicole Lee. Thank you all so much for contributing to the podcast lately. We'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new interview episode, but until then, remember, friends, the words Newsy Credits Backwards are Steiderk Yuswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.